Hello and welcome to Dining with Death, where we discuss infamous cases of death and murder that have an element of food to them, and then we cook the food from the case. I'm Stacy Lee. Let's begin. On January 8, 1993, at Brown's Chicken and Pasta, located at 168 West Northwest Highway in Palatine, Illinois, assailants walked into the restaurant with the intention to rob the store. They stole between $1,800 and $1,900, the equivalent of about $3,300 today. During the robbery, things turned violent and tragic. 7 people were brutally murdered, including the restaurant owners, Richard and Lynn Ehlenfelt, and 5 employees, Guadalupe Maldonado, Michael C. Castro, Rico L. Solis, Thomas Menyes, and Marcus Nelson. 2 of the owner's daughters had been scheduled to work that night but happened not to have come in. Family members of the employees began calling police when their loved ones were hours late coming home from work. When police arrived at the building, they spotted the rear employee's door open. They entered with guns drawn and found 7 bodies, some face down and some face up, in a cooler and a walk-in refrigerator. Later on, gruesome details would emerge about the murders. One victim's skull had been crushed with the butt of a gun, and another's throat had been slashed. The investigation hit wall after wall. Police could not find any witnesses, they had little evidence, and before long, the case went cold and stayed cold for 9 years.
5.5 hours later, 7 bodies were found inside walk-in coolers. All had been shot to death.
No, they don't tell us anything. We don't know if he's alive or dead or nothing.
It most likely would never have been solved had it not been for the foresight of a forensic investigator, Jane Homeyer, who plucked the leftover chicken bones from the trash can at the murder scene on the day of the massacre. Her actions of taking and storing those bones in a freezer for 9 years, a move she describes as being inspired by, quote, divine providence, would end up helping to solve the murders. In March 2002, almost 10 years after the massacre, a woman named Ann Lockett came forward and stated that her former boyfriend, James Degorski, and a friend of his, Juan Luna, had committed the murders. Luna had been an employee at the restaurant but had been fired. Lockett stated that Degorski and Luna told her that they wanted to do, quote, something big that night. She said the men entered the restaurant around closing time, ordered a 4-piece chicken dinner, and then forced the owners and employees to the back of the building before executing them. Armed with the new information provided by Lockett, police arrested the 2 men on May 16, 2002. Luna confessed to the crime during an interrogation, but his lawyer later claimed he was coerced to do so with threats of deportation. This is one of those cases that just makes me angry. You're going to go rob a place. That's bad enough. You're going to kill 7 people over $1,800. There are people in this world that are too evil to exist. I cannot imagine being so heartless and so ruthless. I don't care how desperate you are. I don't care what your justifications are. There aren't any. This is just, it makes me so angry. On May 10, 2007, Juan Luna was found guilty of all 7 counts of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The state sought the death penalty, but one holdout juror would not agree to impose it. On September 29, 2009, James Degorski was found guilty on all 7 counts of murder, largely due to the testimony of his former girlfriend, Ann Lockett, and another woman who both stated that Degorski confessed to them. All but 2 of the jurors voted for the death penalty. He was given life in prison without the possibility of parole. In March 2014, a jury awarded James Degorski $451,000 in compensation and damages for having been beaten by a sheriff's deputy in Cook County Jail in May of 2002. He had been beaten so severely that he required surgery for his facial fractures. The cop was fired. And just like I'm going to talk about how there's no excuse for people robbing stores and murdering other people, I'm going to talk about how there's no excuse for cops that do things like this. There are bad people in every profession. Being a bad cook and being a bad cop are not exactly the same thing. I don't know about you, but I don't want my tax dollars going to a settlement for a piece of crap like this guy because some bad cop beat his head in. And that's my lecture for today. Let's talk a little bit about Brown's Chicken and Pasta. The franchise began in 1949 when John and Belva Brown opened their first location in a trailer at 80th and Harlem in Chicago.
The more people try Brown's chicken, the more they say,
it tastes better. We cook it better, so it tastes better.
Fresh eggs,
Milk,
and grade A chickens mean
it tastes better. That's the thing about Brown's. It tastes better. Brown's chicken, it tastes better. Brown's chicken, it tastes better. Brown's chicken, it tastes better.
The franchise grew quickly through the 70s and 80s, but almost immediately after this terrible event, the restaurants began to fail. The entire franchise as a whole went downhill after the murders. Sales dropped 35%, and as of now, some 100 restaurants have been closed. Currently, 17 stores in the Chicago area remain open. The menu consists of pasta dishes, fried chicken with sides like corn fritters and coleslaw, seafood fare like batter-dipped cod or catfish sandwiches and butterfly shrimp, and sandwich classics like burgers, Italian sausage, meatloaf, Italian beef, a Chicago dog, and a Maxwell Street Polish. They've got Brown's famous golden mushrooms and fried livers and gizzards for sides, as well as corn on the cob and onion rings. The menu is huge, and I had a lot of things to choose from to make. So I decided to honor the Chicago roots and make for you a very Italian dish called the Italian beef. This is a classic sandwich from the Chicago area, and I've done a lot of research on how to do it right. And let me tell you, there are a lot of opinions online about how to make the right Italian beef sandwich. I'm going to take into consideration a little bit of everything that I read, and I hope I make a good one. So stay with me as we make an Italian beef, food from Brown's Chicken and Pasta, the site of a terrible event, right now as we go dining with death. We are ready to cook. We're going to make Italian beef sandwiches. The first thing we've got to do is prepare the roast. We're going to start by making a dry rub for the beef with a tablespoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of dried oregano, and a teaspoon of dried basil. Mix those all together really well. This is going to make a really flavorful crust on the outside of the roast beef. Give those a stir until they're well combined. And that is your dry rub. This is a 3-pound boneless beef roast. You can use sirloin or round. Trim most of the fat off. You can leave a little bit of it on, and then coat it really well in that dry rub that we just made. Kind of pat it in as you go. Really make sure that it gets down into the fibers, because it's going to dry roast over a pan of juice. So we really need that to be well stuck on there. And make sure you get all of the different sides, the ends, and there you have it. I've got a 9x13 roasting pan here, and I'm going to add 6 cups of water to that. This is 6 little teaspoons of beef bouillon paste. You can also use 4 or 5 beef bouillon cubes. I just prefer the taste and the usage of the paste. Bring that to a simmer over low heat and let that all come together. Take the remainder of your dry spices and add that to the beef broth. Give that a good mix, and you've got this delicious juice. Add a wire rack over the top, add your rubbed roast onto that, and it's going into a 225-degree oven for 3 to 3.5 hours until it reaches 140. And there you've got it. It's about medium rare right now. We're going to remove that. Reserve all of those juices with those drippings in it. It's so flavorful. And you're going to set that in the refrigerator to cool. Place your roast in the refrigerator for about 2.5 to 3 hours to cool and make it easier to slice. So here it is out of the refrigerator. It's been in there for about 3 hours. And I've got here my very sharpest knife. Most butchers and stores will no longer slice beef for you. They will only do it if it comes from their shop. So those are the good old days, but now we have to use a knife, or, I mean, I guess you can go buy a $3,000 slicer. I'm not quite there yet. We're gonna take this and we're gonna slice it against the grain as thinly as we can. So there you have it. I got those as thin as I possibly could. We're gonna set those aside and prepare our other ingredients. These Italian beef sandwiches have sauteed green peppers on them along with another ingredient. So we're gonna chop these and de-seed them, slice them into really thin slices, and then saute them in olive oil. Okay, here are our sliced green peppers. Let's cook them. The oil is nice and hot. We want these peppers to cook down so that they're a little bit wilted and soft and they have a little bit of caramelization on the skins. Now, I am following the rules because this is a traditional Chicago recipe. It does not say to season these peppers. It's taking everything in you not to do it. But I'm gonna follow what I've read online and I'm gonna cook them just like this. Those are starting to soften up and I can see some caramelization starting on them. So just give them another couple of minutes. All right, these look great to me. There's still a little bit of crunch to them, but they've softened and wilted and caramelized. Okay, I wanna quickly talk about the important ingredient that goes on these sandwiches. I do not know how to pronounce it. It starts with a G, and it is basically this pickled vegetable mix that you find in the grocery store. Apparently in Chicago, there are craftspeople that make this mix and it comes packed in oil. I could not find that at my store. And apparently the ones that are packed in oil also have green olives in them. So I just took mine and chopped a few green olives and added it to the mix, which I did chop into smaller pieces because it's not made for sandwiches. Some of the cauliflower pieces were really big, some of the carrots were really big. So I have just chopped mine up so it's gonna be a little bit easier to get into bite-sized bites on our sandwich. This is how much of the juice I was left with in the bottom of the roasting pan after our roast cooked for that 3.5 hours. So I'm gonna add that to a pot, bring it back up to heat. But I tasted this and it's very, very salty and very concentrated. So I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of water. We're gonna let that get really, really hot. And we're gonna drop the meat into it to bring it back up to temperature. We're gonna drizzle it over the sandwich. It's gonna be so good. Let's talk a little bit about the bread. It's important to get a roll that will hold up to some liquid. You don't want a soft white bread for this. You want something that's got a little bit of crunch and a little bit of chewiness to it so it holds up to this delicious juice that we're gonna put on. So I'm gonna slice our roll. That ready. It's a very glutinous white roll so that it's a little spongier and it holds up to that liquid. Okay, I'm gonna drop some of this beef down into the boiling jus for about 1 minute. You don't wanna leave it in longer than that because it will overcook and the ends will start to curl up and it will get tough. Sorry, I don't have quite enough room, but the liquid's boiling just off to my left here. Okay, while the jus has the roast beef in it, we're gonna spoon a couple tablespoons of the jus onto the bread. So you've got the bread all moistened with the jus. All right, let's pull the meat out of the jus and put it on the roll. Let's add the green peppers. And finally, this hot pickled vegetable mix. Look at this. I've watched videos of people eating those, and I'll tell you, they go through a lot of napkins, and I'm just about to make a mess here. But I'm gonna cut mine in half because the best bite's always in the middle, and I want my first bite to be the best bite. All right, my first bite of Italian beef. That's better than I thought it was going to be. The roast beef is so tender, and that's because we didn't overcook it, and then it cooked again in the jus, and it's so flavorful. Those herbs that we rubbed it with have made it so flavorful. The pickled vegetables are bright and crisp and balance out the richness of the roast beef, and the roll is soft and fluffy. And the green peppers are bright and earthy. This is better than I thought it was going to be. When I smelled it cooking all day, I was like, it smells really good. I can't wait to taste it, right? But there's something about this combination that is really outstanding. Yeah. Thank you for joining me today as we discuss the Brown's Chicken Massacre and made Chicago Italian beef sandwiches. I appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and thanks for joining me today on Dining with Deb. Bye.